just like everybody else out there, this is not something I've been able to do my whole life, right? I'm like everybody else. I mean, for years and years, I'd go, 3, 4 months, boom, I'd, get out of it for a month. So I remember there were periods in my life where 6 months or a year, didn't go to the gym, didn't work out. What happened over time was I realized that it, everything good for me evolved from that discipline. And then several years ago, I heard this story. Arnold Schwarzenegger told this story. He's on the way to the gym, doesn't want to go. It's like, everything he's looking at is, all the signs on the way to the gym and everything else. It was all in black and white. There was just nothing to it. And he describes going to the gym as on the ride home, everything's in color. And that is the analogy, that I want to tell people is you have to literally make yourself go and deal with the black and white part so you can see the beautiful colors in it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Run With The Cheetahs, your guide to an extraordinary life. My name is Russell Anderson, and this is the podcast that is the companion podcast to this fantastic book, Run With The Cheetahs, your guide to an extraordinary life, written by Mr. Jerry Freishtat, and the author is with us today, as he is all the time for these conversations. And I'm going to go ahead and bring him in right now just so he can say hello. Jerry, how you doing today, my man?
Hey, everything's great over here, Russell. Boy, we are going to hit a topic today that is, I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's number one in my category.
I know.
Can't wait to talk about it.
I know it is. And so, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be talking about the benefits. And I mean the almost unbelievable benefits that physical activity and clean eating can have on your lifestyle. Not just your health, but every facet of your being can benefit from physical activity and clean eating. It can improve your mental, your emotional, your personal, your professional, even your financial. And Jerry and I are not doctors, and we're not personal trainers, we're not coaches, but we are both advocates for healthy eating and healthy lifestyle. And you're going to hear two very different perspectives today. You may recall, if you've watched us before, Jerry's been a physical guy all his life, quite the gym rat. I, on the other hand, have struggled most of my life to find a groove. And I will say I'm probably in the best groove I've ever been in right now and have been for almost a year. And that's probably because I've got Jerry in my ear, and I'm going to suggest that you folks might do the same thing. Listen to what this guy has to say about health and wellness. So, Jerry, let's get it going today, and then let's go ahead and get started with, why does this mean so much to you?
You'll learn over time that all success in anything you do is based in the foundation. Again, getting back to an athlete that has to practice the basics, I consider health and wellness the foundation of all success. And we're going to dig pretty deep into that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I agree with you. You've got a phrase that I love, and we're going to get started with this today. You say 1 hour to feel great for the other 23. Tell us all about that.
Right. Well, this is in reference to the physical side of going to the gym. You learn over time that regimented disciplines, and that saying that I've said many times, probably on this podcast, is you got to be willing to do what other people are not willing to do, and you got to be willing to do consistently what other people do occasionally. So that commitment to get to the gym, make it part of your life, part of your regiment, and it's non-negotiable. I mean, you literally got to sign a contract with yourself. Just like everybody else out there, this is not something I've been able to do my whole life, right? I'm like everybody else. I mean, for years and years, I'd go, 3, 4 months, boom, I'd, get out of it for a month. So I remember there were periods in my life where 6 months or a year, didn't go to the gym, didn't work out, but what happened over time was I realized that it, everything good for me, evolved from that discipline. And then several years ago, I heard this story. Arnold Schwarzenegger told this story. He's on the way to the gym, doesn't want to go. It's like, everything he's looking at is, all the signs on the way to the gym and everything else. It was all in black and white. There was just nothing to it. And he describes going to the gym as on the ride home, everything's in color. And that is the analogy, that I want to tell people is you have to literally make yourself go and deal with the black and white part so you can see the beautiful colors in the world.
I've
And
never heard that story. That's
yeah,
great.
oh yeah, it's on YouTube, it's everywhere. You got to hear him tell it. I mean, obviously, I abbreviated it quite a bit, but because he talks about he was riding his bike to the gym, and but anyways, so that's it. I mean, if you can discipline yourself to do that, make it a non-negotiable. We're going to get into the variances of when life gets in the way and things come up, but one way or another, you got to do that. Now, is there times where it's impossible to go exactly the same time every single day? Of course there is, but you got to learn to adapt. You got to be flexible. Sometimes if you can't make it to the gym, just going outside for a brisk walk. Sometimes when you're traveling, I mean, I've been, I now when I travel, I make sure they have a gym at the hotel. It's like the number one criteria: is there a gym in the hotel? If not, I don't stay there, right? But I used to go to places no gym, and you'd miss a day or something. So it's all a matter of priorities, importance, and making that commitment, because everything else stems from that 1 hour.
So, Jerry, let's just get this out of the way here. Tell us about your gym routine currently. When do you go to I know the answer to this, but when do you go to the gym?
Well, again, just like I described a minute ago, you have to have some flexibility in your schedule, because life doesn't always allow for it to be 100% regimented this time,
Yes.
this day, and everything else. So, but I'm in a routine now where I wake up at 5 a.m. and by 6 o'clock generally I'm at the gym. And I don't work out like I used to. I'm getting a little older. It's more of a maintenance, general fitness type thing. I'm not pounding 300-pound bench presses like I used to do. But I'm going to spend anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour every single day, and that's the foundation of getting the day launched.
Fantastic. Well, you
Yep.
said it earlier, but I'm just going to repeat this because, in our podcast, in our conversations, we talk a lot about the different qualities of success. We talk about discipline, the importance of discipline. We talk about the importance of persistence. But I believe you said it earlier. I just want to repeat it. You believe health and wellness is the number one characteristic of true happiness and success. Is that correct?
I call it the number one characteristic because everything else stems from that.
Yes.
And I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But all the other aspects of your life. Um, uh, I guess the best way to put it is when you get sick or you have a serious issue, which most of us have at some point in our lives. What else matters? You
Yes.
know, you know, your Lamborghini in the garage doesn't matter. Things that are materialistic just go away. I just want to feel good. I just want to be healthy again. So that's why you have to put an emphasis on it. So you don't have to. People that are health and wellness people that spend a lot of time in health and wellness don't necessarily worry as much about their health as people that aren't. So it frees you up, to live a more upbeat, healthy lifestyle. You feel better all the time, and even the basics of everything in life. Um, let's go back to when I transitioned out of the whole fast food arena and all that else. Ever since I've been eating clean and going to the gym consistently, it's like a miracle drug. Okay. I don't get sick. I literally have not been sick with a fever or anything like that in 30 years. Okay. I don't get colds. I used to get sinus headaches all the time. Never get sinus headaches anymore. All this is related to what I call extreme health, of diet, exercise, supplementation, getting your blood work done, knowing everything there is, about the biology of your body and acting on it. And it's just been a big, big win, for me. And every single person I know that has done this will tell you the exact same thing.
Yeah.
There's no exceptions.
We're going to come back to that term extreme health a little bit later, and I can't
Yep.
wait to revisit some of the different facets of that term because
Right.
there's some really great insights to be gained there. Well, let's get vain just for a minute, just get vain. We all want to look good. And it just seems to me that a healthy lifestyle, both physical activity and clean eating, one of the very top first benefits is you look better. Who
Right.
doesn't want to look better?
This is something that, I try to express to people, every time you go to your doctor, you get advice from friends. Oh, you got to get healthy. You got to lose weight. They talk about your health all the time. And the problem with focusing on your health, it's too hard to measure and takes too long to have results. I'm all about getting results, right? So I focus on this is what I tell every single person that comes to me for advice about getting fit and getting healthy. Try to look good. Okay. If you look better, you're going to be healthier, period, end. Okay.
Yeah.
By the results. Okay. And it doesn't take that long to see some of those results. So don't necessarily focus just on your health. Your doctor's the last person you want to listen to when it comes to this stuff. You want to get in with, people in the fitness world, people that understand, the diet, the nutrition, all aspects of it. And, if you make that commitment in short order, like 60 days, now that may sound like a long time to some people, but literally in 60 days, you can walk by that mirror and it'll catch your eye and you'll go, whoa, that's a big difference. And I'm going to tell you another thing. By the way you look,
Yeah.
nothing, nothing will build your confidence than when somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, what are you doing? You look like you lost some weight. You look great."
Yeah.
Right? No one's going to come by and say, "Oh, hey, you look pretty healthy today." Right? Focus on how you look because it's an easy driver and motivator, to keep you going and get those results.
Well, I'm going to go to the people who aren't doing anything for a moment because I've been
Yep.
there many, many, many times. And I know you say 60 days to look better, but I'll tell you this. If you're inactive and not doing anything, simply going out and taking a walk, you will feel better. You'll feel like you've done something for yourself. You'll feel like you've done something for your health, something for your physicality. So, I mean, the simple thing about taking a walk is a wonderful thing to do if you're not living an active lifestyle. It's that
Yeah, I
simple.
mean,
It's that
yeah,
simple.
I mean, to get started for people, if you're someone want listen to this and you basically have never exercised or never went to the gym or anything like that, it is what Russell's describing here. You have to start, okay, and that just all comes down to not a goal; it comes down to a commitment. And what am I trying to achieve in the next 30 days, 60 days? I don't want to, I don't like people who, need to lose 60 pounds talking about, oh, I'm going to take a year and lose 60 pounds. It's not going to happen if that's what your focus is. The focus needs to be on what short term actions am I taking? What am I going to do today? What am I doing tomorrow? And have I committed to it? You got to be committed. You can't quit just because it's cold and raining outside that I'm not going for my walk today.
Yeah.
Right. Or, you hit the snooze alarm, it's 10 minutes late. Oh, I'm not have time to go to the gym. If you get into that mode, just forget it. It ain't happening. It is
Yeah.
not happening. It is 100% commitment. And like Russell said a minute ago, for people just starting out, literally, making that commitment of just getting up, let's just say 15 minutes earlier every day, going outside. I just want you to walk to the end of the block and back. I'm talking about like a quarter mile, just a slow walk. Just the commitment that you make of doing that every single day. Give me 30 days. Every single day for 30 days. You will be on the path and start the trajectory of where you need to be and where you go, because you will feel good about yourself just from the effort of executing uh, any type of achievement like that.
Jerry, I want to come in just a minute. I want to talk about my experience with commitment and workout. But before that, you're going to love this. I'm going to read something to you. I'm going to pull the graphic up on the screen for people who are watching. But in case you're not seeing us on YouTube, I'm going to read this to you. It starts with one walk, one healthy meal, one workout. Do it again tomorrow. Momentum is built one day at a time.
Right.
And then I want to talk about this commitment thing. What I have seen in my life with my getting up and working out. And by the way, I'm really trying to hit that 5 o'clock in the morning thing. I have found out that is just I mean, I've always struggled with when am I going to work out? And by the way, people are different. Their lifestyles are different. Their days are different. No matter what time you drive by the local gyms, you'll see the cars. Whether it's first thing in the morning, there's a million cars out there, or late in the afternoon, there's a million cars. People have to find the time within their own day. But here's something I've learned. The commitment is actually more important than the workout, because here's what happens. Some days I'm a little sore. I say, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do much today, but I get up and I come down. I have a home studio, and I come down and I start looking at the stuff. And before you know it, I'm like picking something up, lifting, stretching some stuff. The commitment is got to be non-negotiable. You get up, you go. You don't feel like walking, you don't feel like working out. That's another decision. But
Right.
get up, and like you say, you got to show up. You got to show. And I'll tell you, I can't tell you how many times I have gotten up, not really felt, today I might not be doing much today. I come down here to the studio, and before you know it, I'm doing great stuff, and I end up with a great workout. So commitment first. Don't decide whether you're going to work out or not. Make the commitment to get up and go, and
Yep.
then do what feels right for you. But 9 times out of 10 for me, I start stretching. Next thing you know, I'm doing a little aerobic thing. Next thing you know, I'm lifting some weight. So commitment first, workout will follow 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. And also for people just starting out, it'd be a good time to bring this up as well. Most people that haven't been to a gym are super intimidated about going to a gym. All right. And
Yes.
especially if you're a little overweight, or, you don't know what to do, don't know how to use the equipment, you don't and so I recommend, for people that are starting out, yeah, I mean, do you want to go to a meathead powerlifting bodybuilding gym and and be overwhelmed by seeing all these elite people and everything else? Probably not. But there's a wonderful gym all across the country called Planet Fitness. And if you go into a Planet Fitness, it's everybody just like you. I mean, it's the general population. And if you go to the front desk, they'll give you a quick tour on how to use the equipment, show you everything. And again, it's like anything. Can you look stupid at the beginning? We all do. And anything new that you start out with, you might be embarrassed, you might look stupid, but that's the only way you get ahead. You got to take that leap.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yep.
You've actually mentioned that gym to me several times. Maybe I'll take the hint. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like, if you go, there's no, you'll see everybody in Planet Fitness. And
Yeah.
matter of fact, they won't let like big bodybuilder guys in there. They have something called I think it's called like a lunk alarm or something.
Oh, is
You
that
know, if
right?
you oh, yeah, yeah, you're not allowed to wear like a tank top in there. Yeah, they want people being comfortable
Yeah.
around that gym. So, and it's a great concept for
It
the
is a
general
good concept.
population. Yep.
Jerry, let me ask you this. If someone told you they'd trade 5 years of their life for a massive career win, what would you say to them?
Well, I am a fan of, segmented obsessive behaviors in, various achievements in your life. That's the only way you can win big, like you're describing. But I'd also say, what's wrong with having it all? Right? A lot of people get in this mindset, I can only do this, or I can only do this, or only do this. And that really comes down to just lack of commitment, lack of organization, coordination. And you know, the level, you know, the level of commitment in your non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables, to live an extraordinary life? So let me give you an example. When I was in my first couple companies, I was, building, entrepreneurship, and I was working 7 days a week. I mean, consistently. I mean, and I mean, it was not uncommon to have 10, 12, 14-hour days here
Sure.
and there, but I had 4 kids, right? So I was able to always carve out those niches of time, to be at my kids' events and go to their games. And I coach some youth sports too. Okay.
Wow.
So, it's a matter of being able to work what you need to do. Now, in order to do that, I went to my office on Sunday mornings. I did this for 20 years. I went to my office on Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every single Sunday because I had to get caught up on all my work and keep everything going and everything. So there was a trade-off, but I was willing to make that commitment. Okay. Now, are there times where you just can't get it done? And I'll give you another example. When I was in the food business, COVID came along, right? Our business overnight went up fourfold, right? And I was working 14, 16-hour days for 3 months straight. So what happened in those 3 months? Was I able to prep my food? No. Okay. Was I able to go to the gym? No. Okay. For 3 months straight, I was working nonstop, and it was a commitment that I made because I knew that if I could build this company and keep our service levels at the highest level during that period, this was the home run to be able to sell our organization. And we did pull that off. Okay. But the point I want to make about this is that the foundation that was built before those 3 months started made it so when that time frame was over, I fell right back into the regular routine.
Yeah.
So there can be times, there can be situations, there can be circumstances, there could be personal circumstances, crises, all kinds of things can happen. But the foundation that you build over time is something you can always get back to. So, a lot of these, internet guys talk about, you can never miss a day. You can't eat one thing off your diet. Everything this, I don't subscribe to that. I'm a realist, right? And the reality of it is that what you do 90% of the time is what matters.
Yes.
And so those are two examples of, where you can be all in, all committed to something, okay, but you don't have to give up the processes that have made you successful in the first place.
Those are great stories. And I actually have several success stories of people in different stages of their life, different ages, and how they have succeeded. But I think I'll save that for a little bit later on. You actually have a concept called the 1,000 hours. Uh, this is and how it compounds. And I'd really like for you to talk about the 1,000 hour concept with us, please.
Yeah, well, actually, the chapter in my book is called 10,000 hours,
Oh,
right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's 10,000 hours, and a lot of people have heard this before. It takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, right? So for almost all of us, that's what we do for a living, Okay, we become an expert at, like for you, you're a marketing guru, right? So you are an expert in marketing and advertising, and you've spent more than 10,000 hours working on that diligently, growing, educating, everything else. The problem comes in is that the vast majority of people, after that 10,000 hours they put in, they think they've made it. And the real elite successful people who live extraordinary lives, they put 1,000 hours into something I call the focus four. There's four other categories that you must gain knowledge in and get educated in if you want to be super successful in this world. Okay. Number one, sales and negotiation. Okay. And you may be thinking, well, wait a second, I own you know, a HVAC company. Why do I need to be a good sales guy? Well, the reason you need to understand sales and negotiation is because that's how you keep from getting ripped off, right? You need to know what that other person is trying to do, what they're saying, and recognize a snake when you see them. So that's the first one. Finance and investing, you got to learn about money. I mean, if you don't learn about money, I don't care how much money you make. I mean, it's irrelevant if you don't know what to do with it. All
Yes.
right. Next one is relationships. Okay. Building relationships is the core foundation of all growth in life. And the last one is what we're talking about today is health and wellness. So you have to put in that 1,000 hours. Okay. And let's pull up that picture real quick that
Okay.
okay. So
Great picture, by the way. I can't
yeah,
wait to
yeah,
hear this. I know where
yeah,
you're going to go, but it's a
yeah.
great story.
Okay, all right. So that picture on the left, okay, that's me. I'm right around 50 years old in that picture. Okay, that photo is me after 30 years of in the gym, working out, busted my ass. That's what I looked like, right? Now, at the same time, I was living a lifestyle like the majority of people. Fast food, casual drinker. I had no idea, you know, that I could look like I look on the other side of that picture. So let's talk about the 1,000 hours related to the picture on the right. When I was again, right, it was right about the time where you see that picture. I started at a new gym, and this gym was bodybuilders, power lifters. Started noticing, man, I'm in here kicking my ass, but I don't look anything like some of these people. So I started asking around, built some relationships. Next thing we know, I start getting educated. Okay. This is the beginning of my 1,000 hours, right? I learned about nutrition. I learned about the right, proper workouts of building muscle mass. I wasn't working out properly. Okay. I learned about supplementation that your body needs, and over that, from the picture on the left to the picture on the right, that's a 7-year project.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And it's another thing I want people to understand that things don't happen like that. Anything significant, substantial in life is happens over a long period of time. And you can imagine the commitment that was involved with all of that. I mean, and as I was going through that process, eventually I met my bodybuilding coach, went into bodybuilding, and everything led up to, living a complete, healthy lifestyle, that I possess today. So, I just urge people to, keep the education and knowledge growth going in those four areas because without, if you're missing one of them, you're going to have a downfall in some area in your life eventually. So, keep the knowledge growing and do it. It's all self learning, by the way. This is not, going back to school or anything like that. This is listening to podcasts. It's reading a lot of, self help books. Of which Russell and I, have probably read. I don't know what did you say in that one podcast? 1,000 self help books. I mean, and I'll also, just throw this out there. The CEOs of the S&P 500 companies average reading 100 books a year.
Wow.
100
Nice.
books a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that tell you? Just do what the most successful elite people do. But if you want to be, super healthy and live what we're going to talk about in a little bit, that extreme healthy lifestyle, you got to learn something about it. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to, be what you are in your 10,000 hour venture, but you have to gain some knowledge to understand the basics of where you're going.
Jerry, let's articulate those 4 areas one more time.
The 4 areas are sales and negotiation,
Yep.
finance and investing,
Yep.
relationships, and health and wellness.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yep.
For anybody that wants to hear a little bit more about that conversion from the picture we held up, we have done 2 previous podcasts that include some amazing material about bodybuilding, working out. In one, Jerry tells the story of going from where he is on the left, basically, to who he is on the right and winning the Maryland State Championship in bodybuilding for his age group. It's an amazing story. It's a fantastic story. And I forget which one of our podcasts that is, but I'll look it up and put it in our notes so you'll be able to see it. And then the second one, the one that followed that was where we actually had Jerry's bodybuilding coach come on with us. And what an extraordinary guy that was. And that was David Johnson was his name. Fantastic guy. And so if you're into the working out and the bodybuilding thing and you want to see how that kind of progress happens or that kind of transformation happens, you will really enjoy those 2 previous podcasts of ours. So Jerry, I just want to share, about 3 or 4 different success stories of people I know. And this is just because, again, you look unbelievable. I mean, you're you're amazing. Okay. You're amazing looking. But, I want to talk about people that we might think are a little bit more normal. Okay. I know you're normal, but and I'll start off with, I have a grandson who needed to bulk up for baseball. He was a high school player. He needed to put on some weight. And get strong. And I got him into a gym, and we told the guy where we needed to go, and we were hoping we could do it in like 3 months or so. And the guy says, "Well, no, you can't do that, But come on in, let's get it going." Well, I want to just say it took a little bit over a year.
That's right.
But the difference in this young man in this year has been unbelievable, and he's now 6 feet, 185 pounds. Built, just looks fantastic, because not only did he buy into the program, I don't even know if I had this kind of commitment when I was his age. He goes to the gym almost every day and at different times, depending on what so I'm just really proud of him. I love the stories of normal people that can make this commitment and do wonderful things. I want to read you something. I'm not going to use this person's name because I didn't ask him permission for it. But this is a young woman. I'd say that she and her husband are probably in their mid 40s or so. And they both were overweight. And obviously it was something that bothered them. And they decided to both get into a program. And they both lost a tremendous amount of weight. And I'm sure it was a diet situation as well as some working out and all that. They looked amazing. The pictures of the before and after, and again, it might have taken a year. I wasn't following them closely, but it took a while. They both lost a lot of weight. They look amazing. Well, the husband couldn't stick with it. He's kind of gone off the reservation, and I know he hasn't gotten back as where he was, but he's put on some weight. The woman, though, she really found this groove. She identified with this groove, and she looks amazing. And here's something she wrote the other day, and I saw it. If you're feeling stuck in your health right now, I want you to hear this. You are not lazy. You are not broken. And you are definitely not the only one struggling. For years, I thought I just needed more willpower. What I actually needed was the right structure, support from people who understood, and a plan that addressed my health on a metabolic level. That's what changed everything for me. If you've been feeling frustrated with your health or your weight, I promise there is a way forward.
Yep.
Truth.
Yep. Yeah,
Truth.
absolutely. Hey, and a good point to bring up here on this conversation is, there's a difference. I talked about, looking good is the easiest motivation to keep you going. But there's a big difference between looking good and being healthy, right? So you can be perfectly healthy, okay, without looking like a bodybuilder, right?
Oh,
So,
sure, sure.
I just want to make that perfectly clear for people out there that, just a basic clean diet. And by the way, what you don't do is more important than what you do. We're going to talk about that second under
Yeah,
extreme health. But
yeah.
I'm just saying. So if you're not somebody who is striving to like really look good and make that commitment, because that's a whole different level of commitment than being healthy. So eh, just eating a clean, healthy diet, get in your 20 minutes, 5 days a week of some type of resistance training, cardio, whatever it might be, mix it up. You can be perfectly healthy doing that.
Jerry, you have a phrase called fueling the Ferrari, which I love. And, but before I cut you loose on that, most of us know Jim Rohn. And, Jim Rohn has an analogy or a story that I've loved forever. And it basically says, look, if you turned 16 years old and were given the car of your dreams, and at that point you were told, look, this is the only car you're going to ever have, this one car. Don't you know how you would take care of that car? I mean, you would make sure that oil is changed. You would be taking, because it's going to be your only car for as long as you live. Well, that's the analogy of our bodies.
Yep.
We've got to take care of our bodies. The Bible says your body is the temple. I mean, you got to take care of this body. It's the only body we got, and this is where we live. We live in this body.
Right. Yep.
Fuel the Ferrari for me, Jerry.
It's a line out of my book. It basically says a Ferrari doesn't run on 87 octane, right? So, and of course the analogy there is that, if you want to be elite, you want to be a peak performer in all aspects of your life, you have to fuel yourself properly. And when I say fuel yourself properly, you need to, feed the muscles with, the exercise and the resistance training, and you need to fuel the body and the mind with the proper nutrition. I mean, it's as simple as that. If you don't, if you try to put in, 87 octane in a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, things going to sputter around pretty bad, and it's not going to not going to perform. And you are the exact same way.
Jerry, it's time to talk a little bit about extreme health. And let me just say this about that term. I remember the first time I heard you talk about this. And basically, what you are getting ready to tell us is that most people, the great majority of people, don't really know what healthy living even feels like.
That is correct. This falls into that category that we talk about a lot of what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And until you experience, okay, eating 100% clean, where every calorie going in your body is something your body needs, wants, and benefits from, until you can, do hard workouts for an hour a day. Okay, now I'm not suggesting that people should go out and you know try to do this overnight. Okay, this is a lengthy period of time, but once you achieve that level of extreme health, I call it the greatest drug ever,
Wow.
because it doesn't wear off. It stays with you 24/7. You sleep great, you feel great, your confidence goes up. I'm telling you right now, your marriage is going to be fantastic. Your other relationships are going to be great. And you know what else that I can guarantee you is going to happen to you? Your finances are going to go up.
And I know that's true. I know that's true.
Yep.
What's so amazing about this? Again, because I know we've talked about it. You said that once you went that road, and it was a tough road.
Yep.
And as you say, most people don't go there. But once you go to that extreme healthy eating lifestyle, once you feel it, and see it, then you know what it's all about. But until you do that, you have no idea how good that can feel.
Yeah, and it really the greatest impact of it is that if you stop doing it, you crave it.
Wow.
Right? So, if you, fall off the wagon or whatever, and, you zip into McDonald's or whatever, you're gonna feel like crap from eating that food. I
Yeah.
mean, because your body has gotten used to the proper nutrition and the fuel that you need. So it's, it's hard to do, very hard to do. You're not gonna do it by yourself. I've always said, your doctor's not gonna help you out with this. You need the best source to give this a shot if you're interested in becoming this level of extreme health is a real good quality bodybuilding coach. They understand the biology of the body. They understand, how to develop lean muscle mass, through workouts and nutrition. And if you're willing to make the commitment, those are the people that can get you there. But
Wow.
reading books and studying and trying to do it on your own without a support system, I mean, this is hard. I mean, not the workouts. The workouts for some people when you're starting out, it's going to be really hard. But eventually the workouts become the easy part. It's the diet that's very difficult. And I'm just going to throw this out there also. For people, if you're not going to go into the extreme health thing, I would say what I said earlier about it's what you eliminate and certain things I don't eat at all, 0. I'm not gonna have it the rest of my life. I don't eat fried foods. I do not consume liquid sugars. Okay, I mean, literally 0 liquid sugars. And by the way, that's one of the detriments to our youth today. All the energy drinks, it's sucking down, a regular Coke. If I showed you how much sugar is in a regular 16-ounce Coke, and if I could just pile it up for you, you wouldn't believe how bad that is. I mean, these are death sentences. They're literally death sentences. And the reason we do it is because it's not going to kill me now, but 30 years from now, you are going to have a miserable existence if you continue to consume and eat these things that are just not, our bodies are not designed to uptake, digest, and be healthy. And it affects your mind as well. And by
Yeah,
the way,
ladies,
we didn't
go
talk
ahead.
about alcohol. We didn't talk about alcohol.
Yeah.
Again, that was one of the things. I was a casual weekend drinker like everybody else. Just a beer here and there, whatever. And when I went into this healthy eating thing, 0 alcohol. The difference was unbelievable.
Wow.
My energy level just went through the roof. Wake up at 5 a.m. every day. Can't wait to go to the gym. I mean, your whole perspective of life changes when you do this stuff, and it affects everything positively.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry is having his impact on me. We went to a conference together a couple of months ago, and I've told this story in another podcast, but it was Jerry was eating great, and I was like, I thought I was doing pretty good, but it turns out, the cheese in my omelet was like dripping out, and I could just see him like shaking his head. No, you can't do that. And then I got some onion soup that had a big thing of cheese stacked on top of it, and he was just like, no. No. So I mean, I'm working on it, but there's a long way to go. There's a long way to go. So many things I want to say. I want to talk about fueling the Ferrari just a little bit more, and I want to
Sure.
talk about things other than food and your physical.
Yep.
Fueling the Ferrari has a lot to do with all the other things that are inputting your head, and that
Yep.
means what are you reading? Who are you around? Who are you listening to? Who's in your ear? What are you watching on social? If you're doing your scrolling, which by the way, Jerry and I both scroll. We're both social guys too. But I'll bet you that our scroll might be different than your scroll. I mean, I'm trying to follow people that have some pretty good stuff to say. And every once in a while, when I find myself following something that, well, this isn't good for me, or, I don't need this crap. I delete it. I get away from it. So, we're not saying cut out your social. do what you need to do, but let's make sure that we got good stuff coming into our heads. What you're listening to, who you're listening to, and what you're reading, all of this is real important for fueling the Ferrari. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, excellent point. Obviously your diet's not just what you eat, it's what you feed your ears and your mind and what you listen to and so forth. And it's another one of those, counterintuitive backward things. And I'm glad you brought this up because you're not going to execute anything we just talked about without taking care of the mind first.
Yeah.
Right? You getting the knowledge, getting the education, getting around the right people, the right coaches. You have to create a certain mindset in order to be able to endure, the pain and suffering that's required, to get through a year. It's a year-long process, by the way. I'm not going to mess around and tell you, oh, just do this for 30 days, then it'll be a piece of cake. No, it's not. You're gonna do this for a week, and you go, oh my God, I'm not doing this. And then after a few days, you say, I got to try it again. You fall off the wagon. You fall off the wagon. It's all about getting up, coming back to where eventually you feel so good from the effort and what you've learned and how you feel that you will stick with it. And every person I know has gone through the same path. I mean, this took me 15, 20 years,
Yeah.
15 to 20 years where I was working on not eating fast food, cutting down on drinking, all this stuff. But eventually, when it stuck, greatest thing that ever happened to me.
And I think you've already answered this, but because we wrote it down in our notes, I'm going to ask it. Making health non-negotiable for you has freed you up to go after bigger things in life, business, family, and purpose. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you feel great and you're confident, one thing, I'll just give you another example. Show me a fit man or a fit woman walking into a room. There's an immediate attraction by every single person that there's a level of confidence there because anybody who's looking to build relationships with other people are looking for somebody who they know is willing to put in the work, right? And anybody that is super fit, looks good, and has that aura about them
Yeah.
is somebody that has one notch ahead of the people that don't.
Yeah.
So it creates a instant connection in building relationships, if you're fit and healthy.
And I'm just going to throw in one more tip. Some people can just do this on their own. Some people do need a coach to kind of get them through. Some people just need a buddy system. I think I had mentioned one time before that I know a kid that's in college right now, and last year was his first year, and it was a pretty normal year. But this year, his second year, he got some new roommates. Two of the three new roommates work out every day. And he got caught in with them, and now he's working out, feeling great, looking great. It's been a complete change for him. So sometimes you just need some other people. Find a friend, find a neighborhood friend or something to work out with if you need that. That might be part of the solution for some of the people listening.
Yeah, I mean, and all the everything we're talking about, the chapter in the book, embrace the battle.
Yeah.
I mean, life is full of battles. I mean, they come and go, and some are short term, midterm, long term, whatever it might be. But if you're healthy and fit, your ability to embrace the battle gets a lot easier.
Absolutely.
For even for non-physical things, it doesn't matter. So, again, I can't emphasize enough. I'm big on human nature, and most of what society has taught you and the way you grew up and what you have learned does not align with what human nature says about how we're supposed to take care of our minds and our body.
Two things I want to get in here. Number one, if we go back to that picture of you for a minute, on the left, 30 years of working out, but without the benefits of diet information or
Yep.
not knowledge. Well, for all the people that are watching us that are already working out, like a lot of what we've been talking about is for people who aren't. But, there's a lot of people that are probably already working out. But what they need to know is that there's probably another level or two beyond where they are if they get the right education. It kind of leads towards that extreme health thing. So, I mean, I know there's probably people that are going to the gym all the time, but they're not as healthy as they could be.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they can pursue that. They can pursue the next level. There are multiple levels to this healthy thing leading up to the extreme health. And then for the people who aren't currently being active, I say take that walk. Take that first walk. Take that first step. Make that first commitment to do something.
Yep.
And then do it again tomorrow.
Yep. Absolutely. And and another thing I'll throw out there, where you're saying people that want to get up to move up the ladder to the next level. I mentioned about getting a bodybuilding coach, so you can learn all about the proper nutrition and the proper way to work out, the proper way to build muscle mass. But another thing that is becoming super popular these days is people have what are called HRT doctors, the hormone replacement therapy doctors.
Yes.
Okay, these guys are not your, general practitioner, right? They're going to do, like, I get my labs done every 3 months, and I submit it to my HRT doctor, and he reviews my labs and makes sure that every aspect of my makeup, my biological makeup, is correct, in line, and if it's not, we supplement for it until it becomes the way it's supposed to be. And again, this is just like the next level of, a lot of this has to do with life extension, living longer. There's certain supplements that, can help extend your life, and make you super healthy. And the other reason to do that is because if you do have an issue, I mean, these guys are going to find it,
Yeah.
and they're going to find it early.
Yeah.
I mean, for men my age, getting your PSA done every
Yeah.
3 months,
Yeah.
prostate cancer is a huge issue with, people over 60. They catch all this stuff. So again, and then people say, oh, well, I can't afford that. It's so expensive. And look, let me tell you something. There's nothing more important than your health. And you just don't go out, one night a week to dinner and you can afford to have an HRT doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, what's more important? Matter of fact, if you have HRT doctor, you're not going to want to go out and eat. So it'll go all in line together for you.
Jerry, we might want to get one of these guys on one of our episodes. That
Oh
people,
yeah,
people might get
I got a few of them.
people might get a kick out of hearing some of that because that's fairly cutting edge, fairly new expertise, is it not?
Yeah. There's a whole world coming of peptide technology, and I mean these guys are on the cutting edge of of health. I mean, most of your elite athletes all work with HRT doctors, and it's just if you want to get to that top tier of health, of making sure again you have, like we said, you got to do the workouts, you got to have the diet, but this is the next level
Yeah.
where you make sure that your body is functioning at the proper levels.
Yeah. So Jerry, if you could address your 25-year-old self, what would you say to that guy?
Well, it's like anything else. It's knowledge, experience, and commitment. When you're 25, all of us, everybody watching this would, says, "Oh man, if I'd only known what I know now when I was 25," right? And that goes across a myriad of things. Just whether it's relationships or business or career, and things that you've done. But I'm not a big proponent of going back and looking at what I didn't do or what I wish I would have known or anything like that. I know what I got now, and I know what I can do today, and I know what I can do tomorrow. Okay. So I'm glad I had my 25-year-old self, because all the mistakes I made, all the stupid shit that I did is how I learned to
Yes.
be who I am today.
Yeah.
Right. So don't go back and beat yourself up about who that guy was.
Love it.
Right.
Love it.
Right. Okay. Use it for fuel. Use it
Yes.
for energy, right?
Yes.
And let's just focus on today forward. And again, we people always talk about age and everything else, and I'm 66 years old now, but I'm telling you, because of how I live my lifestyle, I wake up every day, can't wait to get going. I'm just getting started. I mean, I'm thinking, a day doesn't go. I'm going to live to 100, right? I want to be 90 and walk around Disney with my grandkids.
Yep. Yep.
I can't guarantee that's going to happen, by the way. But if you think that way,
Yeah.
it propels your lifestyle, your activity, and everything that you do.
Jerry, I've got a short list here of some potential actionable steps that people could take that I think both you and I would love to see people commit to. I'm just going to read through these. If you have any comments you want to make on them, I'd love to hear it. Number one would be commit to one focused hour a day for your physical activity, your health. 1 hour a day. Commit an hour. Number two, audit
Well,
your.
here,
Yeah,
let's just stop on that one right there.
absolutely.
Okay, okay,
Cool.
okay. Look, if you're starting out, you don't need an hour, right? That's too big. It's too big, right?
Okay.
I want 10 minutes. I want 10 minutes of just walking outside, walking down the street and back. Again, this is for people just starting that have never exercised. And I want another 10 minutes of knowledge and education about health and wellness. And by the way, it's all right on here. Okay. There's no excuse. You can do it anywhere, anytime, any place. And Russell said this earlier about, what he does in the morning. I spend 15 to 30 minutes every single morning listening to podcasts of my mentors, getting educated on new stuff, and it just completely sets the tone for the day. Matter of fact, I do that right before I go to the gym. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast or something on the way to the gym. Set these micro goals. You're looking for, we talked about this in another podcast, micro wins.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Micro wins come from very short, measured actions. So let's just get 10 minutes of exercise, 10 minutes of self education, and make a commitment. I'm doing this every single day for 7 days. Here's when I'm doing it. And you do not break that contract with yourself. When you cut a deal with somebody, like if at work or you have a business and you write a contract with somebody, you don't back out of it. Why would you back out on a contract you make with yourself? That's the most important one you make. So that commitment is where it all starts.
Love it. Love it. Now, the next one is called an audit diet. I'm not sure I like the name for that, but it basically says swap one of your low octane items for something better. Now, that could be any action you have, or it could be a food item, since we talked about food here recently. But, you should be able to look at what you eat and do during the course of the day and say, okay, I'm going to delete this today, or I'm going to remove this one. We're going to skip it today. We're going to add in something good.
Like I said before, what you don't do is just as important as what you do. I don't know if I'm a fan of making a 1 day commitment, but let's just say, you're a regular Coke drinker, right? You drink Coke or, or any sugar drink or Starbucks drinks, whatever it might be. Let's go 1 week without those. Let's go 1 week without a single liquid sugar drink. I can guarantee you're going to feel pretty damn good after a week, just from that,
Wow.
just from that. Yep.
Wow. Well, that's good. And then, the other ones here are simply make health non-negotiable. I mean, I think we've covered that pretty much. I mean,
Right.
obviously we're both advocating for people to push a little harder for their health, their well-being.
It comes down to this, and just because I have been around, so many super successful, wealthy people. I've been around super, successful like athletes, entertainers. I mean, I can't tell you, how miserable some of these people are because they don't have their health and wellness in
Mm.
check. Okay. And again, I was actually at an event recently, and there was a guy on the stage who was a billionaire, and this guy was so obese, he needed help walking up there and getting off the stage. Do you think he would trade about half of that or maybe all of that money to have his health back? You know, that's why it's so important that you start now, because if you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s and you continue that bad lifestyle, unhealthy lifestyle, once you get into your 60s, it is a brutal change to make.
Yeah.
I mean, the older you are, the harder it is to change it. So set that tone early, build that base, and then as you get older, you'll feel like $1,000,000.
Jerry, I think we've been beating the drum pretty good here today on getting healthy, and it's important. It's important. We've given plenty of examples, and I know for me, it's good to have you in my ear because I mean, I know I'm working on my stuff too. You know, you're a great role model, and I hope that people benefit from what all you've had to say. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you know someone that needs a little push, if you have someone in your universe that you know is not living as healthy as they need to be, why don't you share this with them? Send this over to them. Let them listen to it and see if it can't get them off the dime and get going. If you haven't already bought or read this book, highly recommended. There is great stuff in here. You don't need to read it from start to finish. You can pick it up and start anywhere. I look at it literally a couple times a week. I pick this thing up and get some sort of gem out of it. Jerry, you did a fantastic job with this. And
Appreciate
am
that.
I correct in saying that you might have another one coming?
We're working on it. We're in the
Okay.
initial stages. That's
Very,
good.
very
Yep.
good. Well, do you have anything, Jerry, you'd like to close with today?
Yeah, I think that one thing I want to leave people with about this topic is, um, I was talking with somebody at an event. This is just a few weeks ago, about um, the high achievers, always need to know what's next, right? So, like when you hit that home run, or for me, the biggest one for me was it took me 10 years to bench 300 pounds, and after I benched 300, it was like, oh shit, what now, right? So you get these big letdowns if you're someone who's going through these cyclical achieving events in your life, and when that ends. So I've learned to always have something else lined up. And this guy said to me, he goes, what about having something that doesn't end? And I said, well, what are you talking about? And he literally said, he goes, working on yourself, your health, your wellness, and constant education and improvement never ends.
Oh,
You
that's
take
great.
that to the grave.
Jerry, I want to thank you so much for everything you've shared today. Fabulous stuff. And again, I know you personally. I know how healthy you are, and I know what a big deal it is. And you're extraordinary in that fashion. And I wish more of us, including myself, could move closer towards where you are. I know I'm going to keep trying to get there. And ladies and gentlemen, again, if you know someone that might benefit from this messaging on health and wellness, please share the video with them, share the podcast with them, let them hear this. Maybe they'll get something going in their life. I want to thank everybody for paying attention to us today, for joining us, watching us. We do these conversations every couple of weeks, and we're just trying to have conversations that help you get where you're going and figuring out where you want to be and how to get there. So we thank you so much for paying attention, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Thanks. See ya.
Goodbye.